if we have any hiccups here, we can edit that out.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mortgage Influencers, where we bring you professionals who share insight into the latest trends, tips, industry technology, and services to help you be a mortgage influencer in your mortgage business.
Hey, you know what?
That's the
Can't
test.
get everybody. I'm only trying to get 50% of the people out there. I can't make everybody happy.
Love it.
I love it. So welcome to the green room. For those of you who are joining us, it is Wednesday. So it's another Mortgage Influencers podcast. My name's Ginger Bell. I have my co-host who is back again. And so Scott Shang, good to have you back. Steve Richmond. Hey guys.
Hello, everybody.
And back by popular demand, I was just sharing, we have never had back-to-back guests on our Mortgage Influencers, and we're delighted to have Devin Dubuque and David Nguyen with the Real Estate Success Partners back again. And they were with us last week, talked about really the success they're having with their podcast and why they started it, and really overcoming that, how do you get started? And so we invited them back today to really break down the steps, because so many times we talk about, hey, this is what you need to do. And hey, this is very successful. And people are like, that's great. How do I get started? And that's really how, Devin, we got started. We know you and David through Carl White's group, the Freedom Club. And
Right.
You had been at an event in Nashville, November of last year. And Carl had a speaker on talking about podcasts and the power of podcasts and getting started. And you are a great student because you said, I'm in. It sounds like a great deal. And you recorded your first, I think, 2 episodes. I know at least 1 episode, right?
Yeah. We did 2 episodes right out of the starting gate. The first one was David and I, and we were, like I mentioned last week, in my kitchen. And we were like, hey, what do we talk about? Well, let's talk about us, what we do, our success plan. And so that was episode number 1. Episode number 2, since we were so close to Christmas, right? It was November for the first one. So we shot the second one the first week of December. And we wore Santa hats, and we did, an episode again, kind of evaluating our process. We went over it a little more in detail on the second podcast. So, we just wanted to get the ability to hit the ground running with some content that we were familiar with before we started inviting guests. And we felt like, hey, getting to know us, who we are, where we come from, and, how we create success in our business. This is a great way to get that started. So that was episode 1 and episode 2.
So you need to do, since we're coming up on a year now, we need to pull the Santa hats back in, right?
It's already happening this
Awesome.
Friday. Back at the house. We're going back to where it all began. We're getting back to the grassroots.
I love it.
Last week you said, wait till I come this week. I'm going to be swagged out. Out the shirt. Let's do the swag. I want to hear about
I've got
it.
the shirt on too.
So do I. Look, triplets.
So you need to have
lots
Scott and Steve on so that they can get matching shirts as well.
We should. We'll do it. I'd love that. Yeah, we've got jumpsuits too. We didn't wear those today, but we've got jumpsuits from the head to the toe, where it says Real Estate Success Partner down the leg. It's got the podcast mic on the front and on the front leg of the pants. So we like to we like to brand it. We think it's important, and we've gone out and we've done some shoots on site. And it's funny to see the looks that you get when, 2 guys, one big, one small, show up in matching jumpsuits. It's like twins all over again. I'd love to say I'm as handsome as Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can't quite pull that off, but it's still pretty funny to see us out there and people, checking us out. Like, who are these guys, right?
Part of our mystique, Devin.
It is.
Part of our mystique.
Well, and that's interesting that you say when people see us out there, because you shoot your podcasts in a variety of formats, right?
We do.
And so what I really want to do is to break down from the beginning where it's like, okay, we're getting into planning, who are we inviting? And David, you did a great job last week of really talking about how you invited. And Steve, you had asked about, what if they say no and how you overcome those objections. And then, you guys do a great job of sending out the email and the follow-up and making them comfortable. So let's walk through this from the very beginning, deciding, number one, who are you going to invite onto the podcast? What's the strategy there?
Well, I'll talk about who, and then Dave, why don't you cover that initial call to get them on the pre-podcast?
Perfect.
Because normally that's you or one of the loan officers that's going to bring a guest on. So the who for us is typically an agent in any of the markets we serve, and we're in 50 states, so we're not really limited there. That's having success. We tend to like agents that are doing 15 or more buy sides a year. We just found that that's a more qualified agent. But sometimes we'll go a little heavier than that. Sometimes we'll look for agents that are 30, 40, 50. We've had some that is as many as 300, 400 units a year. But the baseline is we want to work with people that we know have a story to tell, and people that are actually having success in today's market. So that's where we do the starting point. And David, you're out there making the connections. So how does that conversation go?
Again, we follow the mortgage marketing animals, so I can't emphasize enough. Our coaching program is a big reason why we do the things that we do. So on the front end, I call it my funnel. So part of my funnel to contact an agent out there that is potential, someone I want to have a relationship with, is just calling them, edifying and honoring them, seeing if we have a connection. And during that call, once I edify and honor them, I briefly talk about what I can do for them. It's never about products because everybody has the same products. I'm just like everybody else. In fact, it's funny. A lot of times people, as soon as they hear, hey, I'm a mortgage lender, oh, you're the third one that called me today. If you don't think you're the third or fourth lender that's calling them today, you're gravely mistaken. It's everybody's calling the top realtors today. So I kind of just say, yes, I am a loan officer, but if loans is all I did in the past year, that would be great. I'm more of a marketer and a lead generator. And they go, what? What are you talking about? And that kind of segues into why I'm calling. I go, we're a little bit different. I have a real-time referral program that I'd like to talk to you about, but that's something else. I go, the biggest thing is, what are you doing to market yourself right now in this market? And then they kind of open up. A lot of them, the older realtors, believe it or not, are still not on Facebook, YouTube, and so forth. And so I throw out a couple of stats, and these are stats that I got from the mortgage market animals. Did you know today, 51% of the population in the United States is 31 and under? Very young population, right? For the longest time, it was the baby boomers was the largest population size. Also, another stat, 70 million millennials and Gen Z are looking to purchase a property in the next 24 months. Purchase. There's not 70 million properties out there. So with that being said, how do you target millennials and Gen Z and the younger population? It's a whole different demographics, So I say they like to communicate the way they like to communicate. That being said, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube are a big way they communicate. And we've kind of stepped into that field. And, one of the things that we started is we started a podcast called Real Estate Success Partners. And what we do is we bring realtors like yourself to kind of tell your story. Because if you're telling your story to the public out there, it sounds like you're egotistical and arrogant, and no one wants to work with an egotistical, arrogant person. But if you come on our show and me and my partner are edifying, honoring you, and talk about all the things that you do that's unique and whatever, all of a sudden it goes out to your sphere, and you're not talking about yourself. We're talking about you. And immediately it's a hook. And from there, I kind of talk about not only do we run the YouTube podcast, but on top of that, we do 20-second mic drop moments of, hey, the reason why I like to help people is because of this. Hey, my special niche is this. And they can drop it on their Instagram or on their Facebook or on their YouTube to get their followings. But on top of that, Devin and I, as part of what we do, is we do paid Facebook advertisement. So if you're not doing that yet, let us show you how we can do that for you. And if you want to share your database with us, we'll do the Facebook marketing with your database also. Okay,
I'm going to stop you there, because that's something that it's like, do they share that? Because that's a pretty big deal, right?
I think we've had one or two, not a lot of them. Again, it's just, a lot of them don't, but I still say it. And
But
we've
it's
had a
the
couple
change in
share.
conversation, right? Because nobody's
Absolutely.
having that conversation with
Yeah.
them. It's like, it's not about, hey, do you have any listings? Or, hey, how many deals have you? It's like, hey, let's work together.
Yeah.
Let me, let's help educate and be able to bring to light those things that the next gen want to know about, and amazing statistics to be able to do that. It's like, wow, hadn't really thought about that. What on?
Yeah.
So you take them off of that immediate defense, right? It's like, yeah, you're the third lender that's called me today. It's like, isn't that great? But they haven't called to tell you, how can we work together? How can we market? How can we reach the next generation? How can we change what's happening in the housing industry? So you take that defense down and you give them a vehicle to do that. So it's not even just a matter of, hey, you know what? You stink. You're not doing this. It's a matter of, let's help you do this. Right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Let me
And
show
then-
you the way.
Yeah.
Can I unpack the Facebook thing a little bit, because that's something that I did in my business too, and it was pretty successful. Are you just setting up a retargeting audience for them, custom audience of their things, and then doing retargeting, sending their mic drops to their existing client base?
So the best way to answer that is we're not doing anything.
Oh, perfect. You've got
we
a
have,
who
we
for
have a
that.
great guy
Yeah.
behind the scenes that does that
Yeah.
for us. And that's John
You are-
Hayashida. But yes, so
Yeah, you are good.
essentially-
You are good marketing animals. Excellent. That was a test.
So-
If not you, then who?
That's
Yeah,
right.
the who,
Who's your
right?
who?
The who, not you. So, at the end of the day, what we'll do there is we've got our audience. So obviously, our paid ads are going to get to our audience. We don't have to pay to get to our audience, but we do paid ads behind it that are going to reach, specific demographics. But when it comes to their demographics, if we upload their targeted lists, you're 100% correct. We're going to be reaching out to their targeted clients as well, or their sphere of influence. So what we'll offer them is, hey, if you would like for us to do this, we'll get a list of emails, names, and phone numbers, and we'll provide that to our social media manager. He'll do the upload, and he'll make sure we get you in front of your sphere. In addition to that, where we can collaborate, because on business pages, Facebook can be weird about that. Where we can collaborate with you, we're going to collaborate with you as well to make sure that you get in front of all the spheres that we get in front of. And we'll do the paid ads behind that. So even if you don't provide your list, we're still going to make sure that we get out there. And then we're going to give you a copy of all of it. We're going to give you the video. We're going to give you the audio. We're going to give you all the mic drop cutouts. So we don't get in front of your sphere. Now you can take that once we've dropped ours, and you can do your business on your end, and you can get it out to whomever you think needs to see this as well.
Yeah.
And that's
such a
what's cool
smart
about a
and easy way.
podcast, because you
Yeah.
have longer form content. Your podcasts run 20 to 30 minutes. And now you can break that down into smaller. And this is what I love about podcasts, is because it's not just you talking, it's not just them talking, but it's all of you together. And now you're being introduced in that same way, David, as far as you don't want to, get up and boast. Nobody wants to get up and boast like, I'm this, I'm that. And so now the two of you are edifying each other and being able to do that in a very informative, non-threatening way. And it's just so organic. It's a matter of, if it's like me, talking about, hey, Scott, you have been killing it on AI. I've been watching all the things that you're doing. It's absolutely phenomenal. Instead of Scott saying, oh my gosh, you should see all the things that I'm doing. It's like, that's one of the things that I love about podcasts, is it gives you that opportunity to do that.
What I love about this medium too is I call it fly on the wall marketing, because consumers don't want to talk to a professional because they think they're going to be sold to. So if you're just having a conversation, the audience has an opportunity to be a fly on the wall and just listen to professionals talk to each other without the fear of being sold to. And I think it's such a powerful way to deliver that message. And your personality tends to be 80% of the conversation. They're like, these guys are funny. Like, these guys are cool. Wow, I didn't know that about that guy. It's just kind of like as if somebody overheard you guys at a Starbucks just talking shop. right? And it's just,
Right.
it's so, and it lowers your defenses. They're not, it makes them open up and show their personality and their character. Yeah, I absolutely am in love with this medium. I think it's brilliant, and congratulations on executing the way that you did.
Thanks, Scott. We appreciate it. And so that'll segue us into our 15-minute pre-podcast, right?
Okay.
So David's setting the tone. This is what we'd like to do. Would you love to talk more about it? Let's get you on a 15-minute pre-podcast just to talk more about becoming a guest on the show, right? So now there feels like there's a format here. We do that through Calendly. We schedule the link. That way we have them show up, and we always do those through Zoom. Because we think it's important to be able to look them face to face, give them kind of a feel as to who we are, and bring them on a pre-show of the show. So on the pre-podcast call, it's always going to be myself, David, and then our office manager, Jennifer Rodriguez, who helps with the scheduling aspect and make sure that everything happens behind the scenes to get that consumer there, to get the swag out to them when we send the t-shirts. All that stuff has to happen. And David and I, we've got other things to do. So we've got the who, not you, which happens to be Jennifer Rodriguez. And she makes sure that everything happens behind the scenes. When we get them on that pre-podcast call, that's where we're jumping in and we're going, hey, super excited to have you here. And, this is why we think you're going to be a great candidate. We were looking at where you're at, what you're doing out there in the industry, and it's huge. And what we always tell them is, first off, I want to let you know with our podcast, it's really important that it's not hard copy. We're not here to trip you up. We're not here to make you look bad. We're here to have fun, right? And the format that we have is very conversational like we're doing right here. In fact, David and I will typically wear podcast gear that's very casual because we want you to feel like you're sitting on a couch with one of your good friends talking real estate like you do every day. So it's funny you mentioned that, Scott, because that's actually part of our pre-podcast interview is to diffuse them by letting them know we're just going to have some fun here, and we'll go through and we'll say, so what we're going to do is we'll record on a Friday. We always record we mark it down for an hour. We do 20 to 35-minute segments, but we want to make sure just in case there's equipment problems, somebody shows up late, we've got time. If you're local, we're going to bring you into the studio, and we've got 4 HD cameras, microphones. We've got a videographer there that's going to make sure that this thing looks amazing. If you're joining us remotely, we're going to do it through Riverside. We like Riverside because it shoots in HD quality. And that way, when it finishes shooting, it'll do the upload. Also, our sound and video technician can adjust mic and video while we're communicating to make sure we're getting optimal performance on that. And it's really simple software to use. And, and then we'll kind of walk them through. So what we'll do with it is we'll break it down to those mic drop moments. We'll put those out on the social media platforms. We're going to make sure on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and we're going to hit all the big ones, all the podcast networks. And then when we're done, we're going to drop that out there to you. We're going to make sure we collab. We're going to do the paid ads. We'll bring on your sphere of influence and upload that into our targeted ads. If you'd like for us to do that, you don't have to, but we'll do that for you. And then we'll send you all of it so you can put it out there on your social mediums, right? And this, by the way, guys, is where we like to ask a question. David, why don't you hit them with one of your famous questions, brother?
We have one that we really like, and I vetted this question out quite a bit whenever I asked it. So the one question we ask a lot is, thus far during your professional career as a realtor, what's the one achievement or moment that you're most proud of? Can't name me 2 or 3, just one. And that usually gets them thinking. Almost every single time they take about 30
and
or
I'll
40
come
seconds.
in over the top and I'll be like, but that one moment, seriously, where you sat down and you said, this is it. This is why I want to do this. This is why I want to be in this industry.
So the reason why I picked that is because they use, I'd say almost 50% of the time, they anchor to something that was, it's never the biggest transaction. It was always helping a grandmother or someone into a 75, something that they really get emotional about. I'd say 50% of our realtors start crying when they relive that moment. Devin and I are crying a lot of times because we're affected by it. But part of the reason why I chose that question is it anchors now Devin and I to that feeling of them. And that's why I chose that question.
And so once they answer it, it's also a great opportunity where I'll come back in and I'll recap it. Hey, if you didn't hear that, what realtor agent said was, this is what they're doing. You know what? That's exactly why we want you on this show. I mean, I'm honored just to have the minutes here to sit here and talk to you right here. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait to get you on the podcast. I am super excited to have you here. So great. This is going to be so good. Cannot wait to see you this Friday or this coming Friday, whenever we set it up. And that's the kind of energy we have now. It has to be genuine, because if you don't truly mean that, it's irrelevant, right?
Right.
I mean it, and David means it, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's been so well received, is because they can feel that there's genuine curiosity as to who they are, and we're genuinely honored to be associating ourselves with somebody that has values and is out there doing things for the right reasons, right? It's very seldom that we find somebody that's like, I'm in $1 million and that's why I do this, right? Like that doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen. It's always, I helped this family, like he said, and as a result of that, I got them into a home that they never thought they could have, and it touched me. And I realized this is my calling. And I'm telling you, it's clockwork. You can just lay it down. It's almost the same answer every time.
And sometimes it sounds like, I love this because it takes them to an emotional place. So you're getting that imprint of that time and that space, and that's a connection with you. And so again, brings down those barriers, right, to where they're doing that. And then it also takes that whole sales side away. And even though they're not selling, that's what people want. People want stories. People remember stories. And so by bringing them in to that emotional point, and I think probably for a lot of people, especially in the market we're in right now, it's a reminder why they do what they do.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Well, so we'll finish it here real quick. And basically that's where we'll go, hey, well, let's get this thing scheduled.
Nice.
And as soon as we finish talking scheduling, because we'll have Jennifer do that while she's on the call, David started a new segment recently, and this has been a heavy hitter for us. David, tell them what you started asking right at the end.
Oh, well, I have to ask before we let you go, is there anybody right now that I can get pre-approved for you to make the best use of your time? And I immediately asked for to do business, and they'll start thinking about it, or they'll say something. And now, since I started asking that, now Devin will say something.
Yeah. So basically what ends up happening 90% of the time, it's, sorry, David, I don't have anybody right now. Hey, you know what? Let me ask you a question, Ginger. David's got this really great method of extracting people and getting them back in the industry or in the business that maybe kind of fell off over the last 6-12 months. Do you have anybody that maybe you'd transition to somebody else that you just lost sight of, that you thought, man, they should have bought a house? And the answer is almost always, well, yeah, of course. Hey, if you send that list over to us, we'll go in and reactivate that for you. He's got a really great reactivation method. In fact, the last couple that we've done, we've seen a 27% response back in reactivation. We've actually extracted about 10% of those into applications. So if we could do that for you, we'd love to do that.
Yeah,
I love that.
So we go immediately from that feeling that they just anchored to us to immediately asking for business. And it's almost all, I'd say 50%
in a helpful way, in a matter of them thinking, it's like, oh my gosh, I did have somebody and they weren't really here, or because that's where we are right now in the market, right? The way the market is right now, there's been a lot of people, maybe they, lost, a property for whatever reason. We have a really cool program. We can help you. We can help you. We can help you. I mean, that's the thing I keep hearing you guys say over and over and over again. And it's not a matter of, hey, what you got for me? It's a matter of, we can help you. I love that. Yeah. Okay. So they've been vetted out. You've had that emotional connection with them. So now they're onto the podcast. And do you send out an email to them? What happens as far as what that goes?
So it's all Calendly, right? So basically we'll have an email that goes out with the invite, whether that's the address or whether that's the Riverside, right? Because if they're coming to us. We've had a few where we've gone on site, as we talked about a little earlier.
Let's talk about that, because so the 3 different options here, and so guys vote, and if you're watching this, you're like, okay, first of all, I don't have the dynamic duo like Devin and David here. I'm going to be doing this myself. That's okay. That's okay. You're still going to have that connection with someone else. So don't, they are dynamic. They are big personalities. You don't have to have that. But what you do have to have is the ability to follow the steps that they're following. So that's the most important thing. You have the option. So they invite their local agents into their office in Dallas. They do have a videographer, John, who comes in. It is a full production. He has a 4-camera, and I don't know how many mics. I think you have at least 4 mics in there.
4 mics.
Lighting.
Clip-ons too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Devin was fortunate. He had this equipment already. And so it was just a matter of putting it to use. You don't have to have that, but if you want to, you can do that. And it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. You can get a couple, you can get a really nice, Sony has an amazing ZV camera that it automatically connects to your laptop. You can use something like that. I mean, there's lots of things you can do. We have a client who actually records on her iPhone and just uses little $20 clip mics. So I don't want you to get caught up in all of that. You can record through Riverside. Riverside is one of my favorite as well, but there is a little bit of a learning curve there. You can record on Zoom. You can record on OBS. I mean, there's a lot of different options as far as recording your podcasts. And then you can go live. And so those are the options, and you can mix all of them up. You don't have to stick in one format. You don't have to have a fancy podcast recording studio. You don't have to have all of that. If you can start and then say, hey, my goal is to get to this, then I want to do that. That's fine. So in their office, they do bring a videographer in for that. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can set it up. Zoom is by far the easiest. And so if you're looking to get started, you can do Zoom, you can do a podcast. That's basically it, right? And
100%.
then remote. So I want to talk about the remote because I love doing remote podcasts. And I think people are always like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? So talk to me about some of the places you've done your podcast recordings at.
Yeah, well, the most recent one I think is great to talk about. Have you caught the one that we did with Nathan Carver yet?
Was that this week?
Well, we haven't released a podcast, but we did a short video that we put out yesterday on Facebook.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet. No.
It's
I
pretty
think John
funny.
just sent one over yesterday. Yeah, I haven't looked at
we
the
did a
one.
whole skit on it. So it's
Nice.
it starts off with this honeybee farm with some footage of the
Oh,
bee
yeah.
bee suit, and then it ends up with a Benny Hill skit. Him chasing this off the property, stealing his honey. So you'll have to check it out. It's pretty funny. Maybe our funnest one yet. But yeah, so the on-site, again, if you have a camera that you can go out there, natural lighting is your friend. And the truth of the matter is, you mentioned the iPhone. Our videographer, John, loves the iPhone. Says that, you can get almost as great a quality as some of these really expensive HD cameras. So if all you've got is an iPhone, and as you mentioned, Ginger, just a clip-on mic, that's all you really need, right? That's all you really need for on-site. And when you have that, you don't even need a power source, which is fantastic. So a mic stand, or I'm sorry, a phone stand with a ring light and a couple of clip-on microphones, and you're good to go. We do it a little different because we do have the HD quality cameras. So for us, the only thing for us is lighting. But again, if you're shooting during the daytime, you don't even need the lighting setup. You're perfectly fine with the natural light. The key thing you want to be mindful of is your settings. If you're doing it outside, obviously, if there's a lot of movement or motion behind you, you need to make sure that it's not catching the sound from that.
Right.
And that's what those $20 clip-on microphones will help with the sound settings there. You do want to make sure that they can hear you on the podcast. That's obviously very important.
Yeah,
But,
that is the most important thing. And really test your sound. We recently had a client who was just getting started on the podcast, and she actually invited in the head of Cal FHA. So huge guest. I'm not sure why she started off there, but her sound was her guest was fine, but her sound was horrible. And I'm like, I hate to do this to you, but you're going to have to re-record it because your sound was not good. And people will forgive a lot of things, but if they can't hear you, they're not going to listen to it. So if you're setting this up, log on to Zoom, test your sound, record yourself, take the extra minute, do that. So many times I will do that too if I'm recording something. then I will test my audio, make sure it's okay. And especially in podcasts, because oftentimes we do just listen to podcasts. Although I do recommend, if you're doing podcasts, also do video, shoot video, post your video onto YouTube, because that's going to give you that long form content to pull those drop the mic moments that Devin is talking about. So I will make sure, I'll look and see, Devin, if that's the podcast that was John just sent in. I'll make sure and post that onto our mortgage influencer site too, so you guys can see that as well. And I'll post a couple of them there. Okay, so they're in the podcast, you're doing the recording, somebody shows up and you can tell they're nervous. It's like, what happens then?
It's happened a couple of times. And at the end of the day, I think the key thing is, just kind of stepping back and going, look, it's not live. Okay. So if you're not shooting live, it's not live. If we have any hiccups here, we can edit that out. And I think that's really important, right? Is to let them know that right up front. Hey, and then give them a funny, story of maybe somebody that had something happen. So one time we had a guest that came on and had a sneezing attack mid podcast, and it lasted for a minute. It was bad, and we told them, hey, don't worry, we'll cut it out and nobody will ever see it. Nobody ever saw it, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the key ways for us to do that, and always telling that little story, like, hey, it's okay, right? If something's said that you don't like, or something happens that you're not comfortable with, just let us know and we'll cut that out of there so nobody will ever hear or see what happened, right? And I think that's probably, the biggest diffuser, is just saying that. And then the other thing is letting them know, hey, look, we'll keep the conversation going, or I'll keep the conversation going. So at any point in time, if you feel like you're freezing up, don't worry. I'm going to come in and save the day. I'll say something entertaining and we'll shift gears and go. And I've even had situations where I've asked a guest a question that maybe wasn't appropriate for that guest, and didn't realize it until after asking. But I'm really good at being able to shift gears and get off of that topic. And that's what you got to remind them is, hey, don't worry. If things go sour, I got you. I'll fix that.
Yeah. And editing, you can do that. I mean, that's the great thing. So, you know what, guys, I know we're at the top of the hour. Scott had to hop off, but I do want to keep you guys on, because I know you have a new marketing strategy, some new things that you're doing that you had kind of, gave us a little teaser for last week. So lay it on us. What do you have?
Okay. So new marketing. Help me. Can you jog?
You're talking about the t-shirt. I was talking about, so the little thing on the t-shirt. So for every guest, they send the t-shirt, and I've got my t-shirt on, which is their logo, their podcast logo. Devin's known for his hats. On the back of the t-shirt, and this is what's really cool. I mean, I got the t-shirt in the mail. I'd been in Dallas. They invited me, we met, did a fun podcast recording, and then Jennifer emails me. She's like, I need to know your shirt size. And I'm like, okay. And so I got it in the mail, opened it up, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. It's got their logo. And then I turned it over, and on the back is the episode number we were on and my name. And it's like,
with 5 stars.
So
don't forget
cool.
the stars.
With 5 stars. Yep. And so those are the kind of things that you guys do such a phenomenal job from beginning to end of really, making sure that somebody feels very special who's on your podcast.
Well, you jogged my memory, because we're adding something to the shirt. So yes, so we already do that. And we think that's really important, because number one, it gives that guest a little sentiment of, oh, wow, that was nice, right? Oh, but when you do flip it over and you see the 5-star, I think that's important. We think you're a 5-star guest, right? So at the end of the day, when somebody sees that podcast shirt, they go, oh, 5 stars, man, this thing's got to be awesome, right? And their name's associated with it. And like you said, Ginger, it tells them what episode. But it occurred to me, the consumer's not always going to know how to get there. They may see Real Estate Success Partner and not necessarily know, oh, I go to a podcast network, or I go to a website, or to YouTube. Where do I find that? So we are now adding a QR code. Nice. Great big QR code on the back of the shirt with the podcast mic logo right in the center of it.
Perfect.
Branded in the same colors as everything else, that will take them right to the podcast so they can listen and see and then watch any other podcast that they want. And that's being added to the shirts now. So moving forward, any guest on the show, so you have to come back again, we'll get a QR code on their podcast.
I love that. And again, it's that branding. So their podcast is at www.realestatesuccesspartner.com. That's one of the things that we did when Devin and David and I met and talking about branding and putting everything together, because there are, and you mentioned, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon, we're on all these different things. There's a lot of different directories that have podcasts and YouTube. And so what we do is we put it onto one place. So you actually have a website. So it makes it easy for you to have that QR code. And so that's the thing. If you're doing a podcast, I want you to think about all the different ways you can do the branding around that and leverage it. And having a website is really the key. And there's a great website out there. It's what we put all of our clients onto. It's what we have you on, and it's podcastpodpage.com. So if you want to look at it, you can look at it. Make sure and follow Devin and David, because I tell you what, you guys, when you set the bar as far as how to do a podcast, you guys like set it way up here, and I absolutely love having you guys on. I love chatting with you, and thanks for all you do. You're absolutely amazing.
Well, you're too kind. We're just doing what we do, and we're doing it honestly. Obviously we love the fact that we're getting business here, but David and I think it's probably the highlight of our week. We love getting a chance to sit down and talk to other awesome people out there and share that back with the community and with people out there that are looking for answers, and also people that are looking for the right people to connect with. And I think that's what's been such a great journey on the podcast for us, is having that ability to share, something that means a lot to us back out there with the world.
I love that. That is so awesome. So thank you so much. So you guys, we're going to close it out for this week. Make sure and join us. You can follow us at mortgageinfluencers.com. Next week, our guest is April Russell, and April just wrote a book for real estate agents, and she's going to talk about what she's doing with her book to help real estate agents be successful, her book launch and everything with that. So always about things to stand out, which is so important.
She's down
Thanks,
the street
guys.
from me. April's right down the street, lives in my town. She's awesome. Got to be here next week, everybody.
Awesome. Good. Well, maybe you can pop over there and join her. You guys
We'll do it live.
Yeah, you can
Absolutely.
do it live
We'll
and
look
with her.
into
Yeah.
that.
Give her a call and find out. Yeah. That's what it's all about. So you guys, again, thanks for being so awesome. Make sure and follow them, realestatesuccesspartner.com. And you guys make it a great day. Thanks.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Bye.